We're live.
We're alive.
What do you want to share with the world today?
So we thought we'd take a little change of pace and get a little philosophical. So, everybody knows that Albert Einstein was a genius, brilliant man. He came up with all kinds of theories and, of course, the theory of relativity. And I think there was one year which history calls it the miracle year, where he came up with the theory of relativity and two other very important ones also that are just tremendous, right? So, the man is a genius. And so he won the Nobel Prize for Physics. And it just so happens that there's an interesting story about him that we'll share with everybody today. And that is that in 1922, he was traveling in Japan, and he was staying at the I think Imperial Hotel, and a bellboy came to his room to deliver a package, and Albert Einstein didn't have enough cash on him, so he turned to the bellboy and said, "Look, I'm gonna give you a note, okay? And this note may one day be worth a lot more than any change that I could give you today." That's exactly what Einstein said. And he turned around and picked up the papers from the hotel, and he wrote, according to history now, the theory of happiness. He developed a theory for happiness. And he wrote a few words down on his piece of paper, and this is what Einstein thought that the theory for happiness would be. It just so happens that 100 years later, that little piece of paper sold for $1.8 million. Okay? So, according to Einstein, the theory for happiness is, if you live a calm and modest life, that brings more happiness than the pursuit of success combined with constant relentless. Okay? So if you live a calm and modest life, that brings more happiness, okay, than the pursuit of success combined with constant relentless.
Wow.
And it's very interesting. And I did read somewhere else, which was very unique. The guy said, "Look, I know that it sold for $1.8 million, but happiness comes from understanding those words, not from necessarily owning the piece of paper those words are, written on. It is his handwriting. It is a tremendous piece of history. But if you understand the words, okay,
You could say they're priceless.
priceless."
Yeah.
And, essentially, I think later on he was interviewed, and there was somebody alluded to this, and he was talking about loving what you do. He was in love with science and the pursuit of betterment and continued to learn. He was just in love. He was a physicist, but he loved everything. He was a violinist, apparently a very accomplished one, so he was also a musician. He was a ladies' man also in his younger, days. And so the guy was something else,
Yeah.
apart from being a brilliant mind, And so, I agree with it. I agree with it.
How do you process that? Because you've always been somebody who has been looking for success, and what was the next? What was it? How does it end with the?
It says, "A calm and modest life brings more happiness than the pursuit of success combined with constant relentless."
So, okay, but See, I look at it, you've always been somebody who's been pursuing success, right?
Me and everybody else, I think.
Right, right. Uh, but yourself, so how do you take that message? Because he's saying a calm and modest life, which is not necessarily what you've pursued, or is it?
You know, I'm 64 years old now. My thoughts today are not the thoughts of a 26-year-old guy when he started his businesses. Okay? So, it really gets deep. Like, for example, somebody says, okay, you're 64 years old. They say that the average lifespan is 100 years, but it's not. Okay? And there was an article out there that threw out a lot of stuff saying, hey, look, it's really not 100 years. It's maybe 80. So if you are 64 years old, you've lived more than half your life. And when you put things into perspective like that, things that were valuable before are not that valuable today.
Mm-hmm.
For example, your health becomes exceedingly valuable because you want to maintain your health, because as you get older, you want to be independent. I think that when we lose our independence as we get older, it's a big hit to any human being.
Right.
So, it really, and money is important, but it really doesn't take a lot of money to live a comfortable life.
A modest life, a calm and modest life.
Yeah. So then you find meaning in other things.
Mm-hmm.
The time you spend with your family, the time you spend eating with your spouse, the time maybe you spend traveling. There are things that are particularly important to every human being. Okay? But you realize that time is your most precious commodity. They just interviewed Julio Iglesias about 2 years ago. And Julio Iglesias has been around. He's had a tremendous life. He should be a man with very few regrets. Extremely wealthy, right? Economically speaking. He has a beautiful wife. He has twins. He's got several kids. Okay? And yet, in their interview, because he's having, he's older now, I think he's in his 80s, he's having some physical situation.
Right. Pain.
Yeah.
He's having back pain.
Yeah. They asked him if there was something else, if there was something that you could get, what would that be? And without blinking an eye, and immediately he answered, okay, I would want my youth back. Because with youth comes health. Okay?
Yeah.
You can't buy it. With all the money he's got, he can't buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Our friend, philosophical painter, I asked him, how you doing? How's your family? And he says, good. He says, look, the money, there'll never be enough of it. But as long as you have your health, which I have, and you're wealthy.
Well, yeah, your health is everything. There's another guy that was on Joe Rogan. I think he's of Indian descent. And he said, look, the man that it's healthy, it's not worried about anything. He just wants to continue his move in life, wherever it takes him. If it's a career, he's going to reach a goal. He's got that goal, whatever. But the man that doesn't have his health, he's only got one thing in mind, and that is how to gain his health back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that was pretty interesting. And Joe Rogan was, he has a way of bringing out the best in his interviews, and it was really interesting. But, having said this, because that's a very good question, I always want to improve, and I'm always trying to, like you said, I've always tried to be more successful, right? What he's talking about here is, if you're trying to reach success combined with constant, relentless. You're bringing this pressure onto yourself. You're bringing this thing onto yourself. Then, that pressure, that's what I think Einstein was talking about. When is enough?
Right.
Because...
And then you get into purpose, and what's your purpose, and do you have purpose in what you do? Does that help bring happiness? And the other thing is constant, relentless. Does that go into like greed, which is such a negative connotation? I don't necessarily agree with all the things that are said about greed, but constant, relentless, does that mean that you're never satisfied? And so you just keep going.
See, and this gets very deep, and I'll make it very clear right now. I only know that I know nothing, okay? I don't have the answers. But if you look at a guy like Dan Pena, okay, he is super wired all the time, okay? So he's an alpha male, whatever, in every sense of the word, and in all the businesses that he's done, and he's extremely abrasive, okay? Then he's a...
But is he happy? Because
he's a millionaire.
Einstein's talking about happiness.
Right. Then you come down, let's say, to a guy like Grant Cardone, and these are only my opinions. So they're my opinions. Opinions are like noses. Everybody's got one. So you come down then, because I think that Grant Cardone, when he was younger, he was pretty abrasive. He was aggressive and abrasive. He was out there to make money, because money is extremely important, because money equates freedom. If you have money, then you have freedom. And if you have freedom, then you have the ability to do whatever you want. And when you do what you want and what you love and what you like, I think that equates to happiness. Therefore, you have to succeed to a certain... because I don't want people to think that you can be complacent. No, complacent is not going to get you anywhere.
It goes beyond that, because there are people that have a lot of money that don't feel fulfilled and are not happy.
Well, money is not going to make you happy.
Right. Even though they can do the things that they want to do when they want to do them, it's not the only piece to it.
Correct.
But like you said, it's freedom to do the things that you want to do, but there has to be something else there, like some sort of, Einstein's saying a common, modest life, and I think,
what is a common, modest life?
Right, that's up to interpretation.
It is, because the life that we lead here, the middle class in the United States, it's filthy rich compared to some areas of China and India. And Cuba.
Of the world. Yeah.
And Cuba. Go to Cuba. Everybody's poor, dirt poor, and they don't have anything to eat. So the middle class of this country is filthy rich.
So what did he mean by a common, modest life?
Well, I think that if your focus is just, he's talking about relentlessness. What is the name of the guy that you took a picture with? He said he wrote a book about be relentless.
Glover.
Is
Tim
it?
Grover.
Tim Grover.
Yeah, Tim Grover.
See, if you read his book, he says you got to be.
But that's the constant. Kobe Bryant and
right. Guys. But see, those guys were not relentless in the pursuit of money. They were relentless in the pursuit of their trade. Kobe Bryant was a basketball player. He was relentless in the pursuit of trying to reach perfection in his trade, which he loved. So he took it to the next level, right? I mean, you can get a little cynical about it and say, hey, look, you guys are talking about this, yada, yada. But what happens to that saying, hey, you know what? I'd rather be sad and crying in a Mercedes-Benz than be sad and crying in a Volkswagen. Nothing against folks that own Volkswagens.
We're just talking about, this was very interesting, Einstein's theory of happiness. And Kobe Bryant, was he happy? I don't know. I don't know.
I think so.
Maybe.
He didn't look like a guy that was bitter and unhappy.
I don't know. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, from personal experiences, I think it's a better place to take, because you can look at a Robin Williams and think he's happy. He's making other people happy. He's always laughing. Or you can look at certain people and say they're making other people, they seem to be in a good place. But what's your personal experience? And I think that Jordan Peterson, I think he has a lot of good information on that, about you need to have some sort of purpose in life. You need to find whatever that purpose is. And if he says, if you're happy doing what you're doing, consider yourself lucky.
Right.
But you have a duty to pursue your purpose, which is interesting. But I think if you're doing what you feel is in line with your purpose, I think that it will bring happiness to a certain degree. I think
so.
Just from my personal perspective. Like, I've been in... When I'm doing a task that I don't feel is in line with my purpose.
Okay.
Like, some stuff that's very, very tedious, that, like, behind-the-scenes things, it feels draining. It doesn't make me happy. Like, on a computer. For me personally, I can speak from personal, that doesn't bring happiness.
But you have to do it.
But you have to do it. However, what I do enjoy is other interactions with people. But some people don't like interacting with other people. They rather be on the computer and doing that piece that for me is draining. For them, maybe it brings happiness. And so you got to find whatever that is for yourself individually.
Yeah.
And it's hard, because how do you find what your purpose is?
Well, Jordan Peterson has a good answer, I think, to that. He's a clinical psychologist with many years of experience, and he's considered one of the best minds of our century, right? I mean, I like a lot of his works. And what he says is we are all born with some type of predisposition. Like, for example, some people can pick up the piano faster than others, and they enjoy that. And then as you get better at playing the piano, your self-esteem improves, and then you get better and you continue, and maybe that becomes your love. Some people are very good at writing, and writing in specific niches. For example, Robert Greene. Robert Greene is very good at putting these. He's not necessarily a novelist, but he's more on,
history and psychology.
Correct.
Human
behavior, and so forth.
Yeah.
So, so he's great at that.
Yeah.
You may have somebody that's good at sculpturing, and they do wonderful artwork and so forth. So, okay. So you find something that you seem to be good at, because everybody's going to be predisposed for something. Okay? And, you can see it in the children that you're surrounded by.
Mm-hmm.
Some children go to the piano and they just click on it and move on, but others stay a little longer. They seem to enjoy it very much. There's potential there of that person becoming a pianist.
So you got to try different endeavors.
There's another child that is extremely fast when they run.
Just naturally.
And then you tell him, boy, you're really fast. And he says, you know what? Yeah, I am. Even when he's 4 years old or 5 years old.
Right.
And they say, yeah, I am. And you encourage it because you tell him, look, I saw you running, and he's 4 years old, your little legs were moving like you couldn't see them. And he thinks, I am fast. And then he continues to run and develop his muscles. Okay, you can't be a heavy-duty, a heavy-set weightlifter overnight. It's got to be something so you work at it and you become, so everybody's predisposed, and that's what Jordan Peterson says. Look at what you seem to be good at, And if you happen to love it, like you say, well, you found your calling. You know,
Interesting.
some people can sing. Okay, uh, I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. Some people. I was looking at a video the other day where this lady, she was, I think, from Indonesia, and this was back. This is an old tape back uh, in the 70s, like 1975, and she was competing against a computer at that time, and she was dividing, or excuse me, multiplying a figure of six figures and multiplying another figure of six figures. And she says, okay, the minute that they finish writing the problem on the board, she says, okay, the answer is 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4. And then she got it like almost when they had finished it. Now, that's a privileged
Oh
brain,
yeah.
I think. So, what can she do? She can do anything, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And maybe not, because the brains are there, but maybe the dexterity. Could she be a good surgeon? She probably has the brains to be a good surgeon, but does she have the dexterity that you need to develop to be a good surgeon?
Yeah.
She could probably be a pianist, but does she have the dexterity to have those fingers move across? So, you know, you just have to find your calling. Some
Yeah.
people love to do computer programming. They just love it.
Yeah, and from the outside, maybe if you get stuck in something that isn't your calling or your passion, or provides what's the word we're using,
Happiness,
purpose,
purpose, okay?
uh, it could do the opposite of being happy. Maybe it throws you another way. So it's very interesting. I like a lot what you know the his theory of happiness, and I think there's truth behind it. It's a theory.
You know, you just have to do a little introspect and look inside of you and see what it is that you want to do, what it is that you like to do. Life is short. It really, truly is. You know, I've buried a couple of friends recently, and you know that brings your mortality very up to the front
Present.
page.
Yeah, it's
And
present.
yeah, and so, and you know, as we get older, our values change. They're not the same, you know, as when you were younger. And so,
Yeah.
but it doesn't take much to have a good life, I don't think, you know? And the other thing that we were talking about the other day is that, you know, you see all these social experiments that are done on Instagram and Facebook and you know all these platforms, and sometimes it seems like the people that have less are the people that give the most. It just seems like it, you know. So if we latch ourselves to
Physical things, material things.
material things,
Yeah.
okay, then maybe you become a slave of them. Maybe, you know. And we're not judging anybody. We're not here to judge anybody. I think that, you know, if somebody loves a car and they have the ability to buy it and they've worked hard for it, and it's whatever, a Ferrari, whatever it is, good for you. God bless you. Buy the car and enjoy it. So we're not here, you know, judging anybody. But as you move along, you might find that the Ferrari doesn't fulfill you as much of maybe a nice dinner with your wife or with your family, spending time with your family. You know, everything has its plus and negatives, you know?
Yeah.
But getting back to Einstein, he said a calm and modest life brings more happiness than the pursuit of success combined with constant relentless. Combined with that, the pursuit of success can bring you happiness, you know, as long as you keep it in check, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a constant checks and balances.
Yeah, I think
Like,
so.
am I dedicating all my time to one thing, and maybe relationships are suffering or other things are suffering? Maybe I need to put myself in check a little bit. I think it's a checks and balances.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, there was an article that I was reading. They did a study on people that were in their 80s and they were in convalescent homes. And the question that was asked of them was, what is your biggest regret in life? And one of the top answers that was given by all these elderly people was, I regret that I did not try this. I thought about it, but I didn't try it. I didn't do it. So I regret that, because some said if I had done it, it might have taken me in a different direction.
Sure.
And so, you know, the bottom line, guys, is I think I don't know anything. You know, everybody has certain regrets in life, and you just have to figure out how to deal with them and put them to the side and live your best life every day. I ask a lot of people, how you doing? And the answer I get back is, one day at a time. One day at a time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there may be a lot of truth to that, because the one day is the only thing we truly, really have. The past is gone, and the future is not promised to anyone. So what we really, truly have is this moment that we're sharing right now. And, you know, make that the best that you can possibly have, I think. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree.
Do you? It was interesting, you know,
Yeah.
that Einstein came up with that. He's, you know.
Yeah.
All
Cool.
right.
We'll wrap it up there.
Okay, we'll wrap it up there.